Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm sharing a new Halloween card using a little wicked from Sweet November Stamps. As you know, I am guest designing for this release and it was about time that I showed you another card with this adorable A Little Wicked stamp set. I just love these witches. They are super cute and super fun to color in. Now first of all, I'm going to stamp them out using Gina Design's Amalgam ink, Obsidian Black. And I'm making sure to stamp it out quite a few times. It's the first time that I stamped this image, and so I needed to stamp it a few times to have that lovely impression. Next up, I am going to add the sentiment, and this sentiment is from the Midnight Halloween Adventures that I already used in the past. It's an adorable, cute stamp set with the most funny images, and I just love this sentiment, and I thought with the witch that it could work as well. It's saying we go together like hocus and pocus, and I just thought it was so funny and I really wanted to use it, and since I used the other sentiment on my previous card, it was time to use this sentiment. Now since I am going to make a mini slimline card, I decided to mask a bit of the sentiment off and use it in 2 rows instead of 1, just because this way it fitted the size that I wanted to make. So I'm just masking off with some purple tape the excess. I don't like cutting my stamps. You can do stamp surgery, as a lot of you do probably, but I just can't convince myself to cut a sentiment or another stamp apart. My heart breaks when I need to do that. So I avoid that by masking off. Of course, it's not always the quickest way, but for me it's the most pleasant one. Now for the coloring, a lot of coloring because this image is quite large. I actually love the size because, as I said, I'm going to make a mini slimline card and you can make all the other sizes as well. But well, lately I'm just into mini slimlines and this stamp is so perfect for that, that I just was so excited to do this also with this stamp set. So I'm going to use a variety of blues and yellow markers to get this witch dressed. Now, just for your reference, I have this one combination of blue markers that you will see in the larger areas. And then in the other areas, I will still use the same combination, but I will just limit myself to only 2 or 3 markers instead of the 4 or 5 that I will be using on the dress, you know? And that's the beauty about Copic markers, and I said it in many videos. It's really handy if you have a variety of markers that go together. For example, 3. Normally I use 3 markers to color larger areas. But if you have 4, then it's really easy to just limit yourself for the smaller areas with the same markers and you have completely different colors. Like here I'm doing the dress or the front quite dark, but then the belt sort of area of the waist and then just the side of the arm of the hands, that will be lighter, but it will be with the same blue markers as I used on the bigger area, only I don't use them all. And I think that's just huge, and I think it's also a really easy way to extend the amount of markers you have if you're like me and you're building up your Copic markers collection that you have a bit at a time. Then it's really handy to just look at the combination you already have and check how you can add one more marker to get so many more out of your previous combination. And then just leave out the lightest marker or leave out the darkest marker that you already have, and you have a completely different color combination without having to buy 5, 7, 10 new markers, you know? And I think that's really a beauty about all of this. So on my blog you will find all the Copic marker combinations that I used. However, for the blue and yellow, since I'm using the same markers but in other quantities, I listed them all, and then you can just, depending on the size of your image, you can limit yourself to 3 or 2 of them instead of the 4 that I listed. So this witch, as you saw in the beginning, has a combination of yellow and blues, and I just love this. I first thought of purples and yellows because, let's be honest, I did it in the past and it's just spectacular, the combination of both of them. But I also already made a lot of Halloween cards with a purple inspired theme. So just to avoid having all these purple cards to share with you and doing a bit of a different card or take on a Halloween card, I decided to go for blue and yellow, and I think it works definitely as well. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm now doing the face, and normally I say you start with the hardest parts, and for me that's the face and the hair. Today I didn't, because I was kind of avoiding it. I was a bit scared of the hair, I must admit. But it actually was quite simple to do, and so I shouldn't have been scared because there are again quite some lines that can help you to get the hair as you want to. But you know, from time to time I'm just postponing the hardest things, and I'm glad that it still turned out because I really loved how the dress turned out. So I was lucky that everything worked out. But you know, normally I would have started with the hair, then the face and the other skin tones, and worked my way through the colors afterwards. So here I'm just playing around, and I really wanted to do those stars in yellow, so that's also why I went for blue and yellow. It was all because of the stars. You don't need to, and if you go to Instagram and follow the Sweet November Stamps account, they are reposting so many amazing cards by everyone all out there who is creating with their stamps, which I love. There is so much support by Sweet November Stamps. And well, Amy Young, who is also coloring on Facebook Lives, I told it in one of my previous videos, she made one card that I followed the live. I was lucky because with the differences in time zones and all those things, she's often coloring while I'm asleep. But I watched one, and that was with the other witch. So that's also why I decided to color this one, to not be, well, to do something different and to not let myself be guided by the amazing coloring that I saw by her. But this one she also colored, and probably will in a live, but I missed that one. But on Instagram she showed it, and it was with orange and with browns, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But it was really helpful to see how she tackled it. Also the hair, I don't know how, but in the beginning I completely saw this hair as another hairstyle than just the two ponytails. It was it was bizarre, but I checked it, and there's so much inspiration. Again, if you're stuck or you're just curious how someone else would color it, they repost like so much, and I just love it. I love to see everyone's creations all on one go, and they are so kind, and I'm really amazed and still flattered that I'm guest designing this release. And I promise that at least one more Halloween card will follow with Sweet November Stamps. And then of course I have all those other sets that I still need to use that I bought at the same time that I was guesting. So that will come afterwards. And I bought an Halloween set. But I just don't see how I will have the time to use that one this year. So if I don't get to that one this year, it will definitely be there next year. But it was also with the Wii images, and yeah, just super adorable. So here I'm fixing some of my mistakes. As you know me, I am a fan of the colorless blender. It's my lifesaver when Copic coloring, because I go outside the lines always when I'm coloring. I don't think that there is any card where I didn't use the colorless blender. If you don't have the colorless blender, you can also use like a white jelly roll pen or any white pen that you have if you want to fix those tiny mistakes when you go outside the lines, just a tiny bit. You can definitely do that. Also, this card is going to be one layered with the coloring. I didn't want to fussy cut this. You probably know why, since there are tiny areas, and then with the broom as well. I thought it would maybe be too hard for me to fussy cut. There are also machines, of course, to do that. But I told about that in the past. I have one, I'm not happy with that one. So if I don't have dies, I need to fussy cut it myself. And I would love to have those pieces cut out in between the arm and the broom and all those things, and it's just too hard for me. So being clever and doing one layered, and it's also a clean and simple card today, so that also helps a bit. So I'm doing actually the same as with the hair on the broom here, just flicking, starting with the darkest, working my way to the lightest, and just making sure that I have a bit of well, drama in there. It's not like a lot. I kept it quite simple, the broom, because the witch is what it's all about, of course. But yeah, also, you probably saw it, but the broom and the hair, it's kind of the same color combination, which is something that I like doing personally. It's also why this witch is completely yellow and black. What do I say? Yellow and blue. It's completely yellow and blue because I just like that. But you can do a rainbow even. Like when I was watching the live with Amy, she mixed and matched the most incredible colors together that I might not have dared to do that. But she did it and it's gorgeous, so I should definitely try it out and go a bit out of my comfort with always the same colors and returning colors. But this is what I do currently, so let's just stick to that. And you can do this amazing hat in all colors that you might think of, because it works, and there are, well, it's just, I think it's a fabulous image. I think it's so much fun. The same for the other witch. I just love it. I love that the other one is like holding a pumpkin. I think it's genius. It's like those little details or small details that really do the trick, you know? Also the hat, the stars, and then the moon that is returning. Like, they thought about this image and I just love it in every way possible. So yeah, I had so much fun coloring this, although I must admit, avoiding the elements is also really hard for me. It's like taking your time to go not inside of the stars and the moon. As you saw, I went inside that star with quite a dark blue, so it was a bit of fiddling with the colorless blender, but I was also going to go over it with yellow again, so that also helps, you know. There are many ways to fix if you go outside an area that you didn't want to color. Anything like that. But as you see here, those same blues are returning that I used on the dress. I'm just not using the B91 because it's a smaller area and I didn't have any space left to use that lightest marker. And then I'm going to make sure to also use yellows again and to switch it up, to not have all the same colors next to each other. So here the yellows, as you know, on the dress I used 4, as I said in the beginning. Now I'm only going to use 2 to 3 markers for these tiny images. I'm not using the yellow red 04 that I used right on the edges of the dress, just because it's smaller and you don't need to have 4 of them here. Even 2 would be enough, like on the moon. You do you, you do what you have. I think it's also really handy is to know that although I'm coloring from darkest to lightest, you do you again. You do what you like, you do what gives you the end result that you like. If you're more comfortable by adding first a layer of the lightest marker, then you do that, you know? It's as simple as that. I just find personally for me that this helps me. Also the paper that I'm using, I don't know if I said it previously, but it's Transotype Perfect Coloring Paper. You will hear me say that in every video, and otherwise you will see it in the description box if you're checking out the supplies that I used. It's a great paper. These are small areas, but if you need to do quite a lot of ink blending with other papers, you might have the issue of bleeding. And that's just not something that you want with all the effort that you are putting in to your coloring. And it's not necessarily you, because I know that in the beginning when I used Nina, and I had that with the violets, because it's a really hard color family for me to blend. It went outside the lines without me going outside the lines, just the bleeding of the marker through the lines because the paper is oversaturated. And I was thinking, like, what am I doing wrong? And then I got this paper and I realized that actually the bleeding is not my fault necessarily. It was the paper. And since I used this paper, I never had the bleeding issue, never. So that's why I always repeat it. It's Transotype Perfect Coloring Paper. It might help you, you know. So here also playing a bit around with the markers. If you have small areas, don't be fussing with like 4 markers. It's not needed, not at all. You will barely see all the effort that you put into it if you are doing 4 markers. So here I had 2 markers. Then for the yellows, yeah, I'm just using 1 or 2 markers again because small areas. Oh, and then we are going to continue with the eyes. I must admit, the first time that I saw this stem set, I was a bit blown away by the eyes. You can leave them like that and they can really be mesmerizing, or like hypnotizing, you know what I mean. But then, as I said, I watched the live with Amy and I saw her coloring the eyes just like this, and then she took a black pen. I don't know if it was a Micron or a Copic or anything else, and she just drew in those pupils. And I'm really bad in coloring or drawing myself, so I ended up having just a line of blue. But you know, it already helped me. And then she added a white detail with a jelly roll pen, or with a, no, she used a Sakura of a Sparky, or okay, but you can recheck the videos if you're curious. Definitely do. She does it live, so you have the full coloring in her speed, and it can help you if you want to color along with her. If you want to see how she does like these crazy scenes, definitely check it out. You can rewatch them, or a lot of them at least. So yeah, now that the coloring is done and the eyes are ready to go, I die cut the frame ready mini Slimline from Crafty Meraki. An incredible basic in my opinion. These frames are perfect and I love them, and I could use them on every Slimline card or every cast card or any scene card that you want to create. It's just a perfect frame. Personal opinion, of course. So I cut it out of Midnight cardstock from Concord the 9th, and then I added this to the panel that I trimmed down to fit behind it. And then I'm going to embellish this panel with some itty bitty stars matte gold from Little Things from Lucy's Cards, and I just scattered them around a bit random, and then I'm going to glue them down using some liquid glue. And it has been a while since I used these itty bitty stars, I must admit, but they are really handy, and since there were stars on the dress, and I just thought that it was perfect to match with that. Maybe if I would have had that yellow or that blue in heart sprinkles, you know me, I would have added it in heart sprinkles maybe as well, because with the sentiment it goes also. But I don't have those colors and I wanted everything to match. And this matte gold, I think it's quite nice with the yellow. So after adding them, I just needed to add this panel on top of a card base, and then it's done. You can add many more again. You can add also some glossy accents or some stickles or whatever you want to add. But I decided to leave it like this, as simple as possible, with those extra stars. So that being said, and as you can see me here, my card is completely finished. Here is a little bit of a close-up. I hope that you enjoyed mostly the coloring, because there was a lot of coloring. If you would like to revisit the markers that I used, definitely go to the link in the description box, then you will be guided to my blog post with all the markers. Thank you so much for stopping by and taking your time. I truly appreciate it. I want to wish you an incredible day, and I'll be back soon with some new crafty inspiration. Bye!